So, yun, welcome back to PT Meal. So, this is PT Meal Podcast Live, Handaan, a buffet of play therapies, movement, exercises, activities, and leisure, all packed in a hearty conversation of physical therapy, profession, and practice. So, I am Johan de la Paz, your host, and now let's dig in. So hindi so hindi ko na ma-introduce kasi nandiyan na lahat ng ating guests. Again, our topic for today is horror stories kasi Halloween edition natin to horror stories of migrating here as a physical therapist. Um, where's your Halloween? Ito yung Halloween costume ko. Oh, I got your back. Oh. Ayun.
I forgot. So sorry.
Ayun.
Kalimutan ko.
Ito lang nakita ko somewhere. So, there.
Oh, how about like a Minnie Mouse ears? Will that work?
Pwede,
I can
pwede.
grab that real quick. I'll be right back.
Sure.
And an orange crown, Fretche.
So while Fretchie's getting her Minnie Mouse ears, let me just introduce our other guest, the Aguila couple from New Jersey, private practice owners, Ben and Consie. Welcome back to the podcast, Suking Sukina.
Good evening.
There you go.
And Fretchie, physical therapist from Colorado. Welcome back to
Okay.
our PTME Live Handaan.
Okay, I'm appropriately dressed now.
Yan. May kanya-kanya lang yung costume, kumbaga. So, yeah. So, sige, let's go around muna. Bati natin yung audience, no? Ben, do you wanna say hi to our audience?
Hello, it's me, it's Ben. So I am going through a Super Mario kick right now. Kasi yung pagkabata ko is actually gonna have a nice movie coming out next year. So that's why I went with Mario. My name is Ben Aguila, physical therapist from New Jersey, outpatient orthopedic practice owner, 22 years of practice, and meron akong mga pinagdaanan din na konting horror stories which will hopefully help the next generation of Filipino PTs na kayo hindi kayo dumaan doon.
Mhm. Sana hindi na talaga nila mapagdaanan or at least paiwasan man lang nila. No? All right, Consie, our resident white lady.
So I'm Consie, also in New Jersey. Yeah. So just so right now I'm impersonating a white lady, and I'm really praying na walang magpakita sa akin dito sa basement namin. Tapos
Ganda ng basement mo.
library, yeah,
Maraming books.
so honestly, at first I was like, Ben, do I really have to like join? I'm not sure I have anything to contribute. Although I know of stories, horror stories, especially on like employment. Parang I wasn't sure that I had a lot to contribute until Ben started laughing and told me, oh. You've forgotten about this and you've forgotten about that, and these are all your stories. So I'm going to share them later. So, yeah, that's all.
All right, and lastly, Fretchie.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me again, Johan. I'm Fretche Blair. I'm currently living here in Colorado, working in a hospital setting, but I'm from Cebu City. So, taga Cebu, kumusta?
Ayun.
I would love to hear some choice Cebuano when you get really annoyed with something.
Sabi ni Angelo sa basement and attic spread naman lagi yung horror stuff. Nananakot pa si Angelo.
Naging nervous din na itsura niya. Ano tapos ko?
Nananakot pa siya.
Tayo yung balahibo ko dito. Sorry. Kakain ka lang chocolate. Sige.
All right, siguro we'll start with kasi ang context is like people would think na going to the US, napakaganda, everything would be, good na everything was run smoothly, pero some people would really encounter instances and people that would make your American dream into a nightmare. So, yun ang natin, basis why we're having this discussion. So siguro we'll start with Ben kasi you were open before na naman pagkwentuhan natin before na you had that experience coming over here. So can you let's share that experience? Paano siya nangyari and what did you do after that?
Okay, I've been shared this story before, but just in case you have members of our audience haven't heard it,
Mhm.
immigration story ko nag-umpisa nung na-invite ako ng family friend supposed to be na mag-hire sa akin. Pagdating dito, hindi pala yung iniisip ko ng trabaho ang binigay sa akin, pero okay lang kasi akala ko gano'n talaga. And then by the time nagkaroon ako ng license, meron na akong license, pero ang sweldo ko pa rin is kalahati pa rin ng tinatawag na prevailing wage. I actually didn't care about the income, pero mangyayari nun is hindi magiging sponsorable yung akin. So, nagreklamo ako, pumiglas ako, and marami pang ibang subcontext yun kasi horror show 'to, hindi 'to maalala mo kaya, eh. So anyways, ang mangyayari ay ako ay ni-lay off, tinerminate. Pero walang ibang tinerminate, tsaka parang okey naman yung business. But anyways, ang horror story ko, pumunta ako sa aking lawyer. Humingi ako ng tulong. Right? Kasi yun ang trabaho ng lawyer, di ba? Sabi sa akin ng lawyer ko, wala na raw siya magagawa para sa akin.
Mhm.
Paranta ako, umalis ako sa aking first state, pumunta ako sa ibang state. I was less than $300 away from being homeless. Buti meron kumukup sa akin na tita. Pagdating ko dito, nakahanap ako ibang lawyer. Ang
What
Sabi ko, wala naman ako pinindot.
what was that?
ang plot twist,
Perfect timing. And the plot twist is, okay.
wala.
Coming from the basement.
Kami na
Coming from the basement.
Sabi ko, wala naman
Sorry.
ako pinindot.
Sorry.
I was thinking, ako lang ba nakarinig nun?
No.
Nagugulat ka naman, Ben.
So, ang plot twist,
Ang plot
yung
twist.
lawyer ko na sinabi wala siya magagawa para sa akin, nagsisinungaling pala. The entire time, pwede na pala ako magka-green card tsaka magka-work permit.
Mhm.
Ang nangyari pala, yung lawyer ko, binigay sa akin nung employer ko, nagsinungaling sa akin yung lawyer na yon na wala na siya magagawa sa akin. Paglipat ko sa ibang lawyer, wala pa sigurong 3 months, meron na akong work permit. For the entire 2 years na nag-aantay ako doon, hindi pala ako tinuruan ng tama ng lawyer ko na binabayaran ko with my own money, ha?
Mhm.
So, yon ang plot twist. But actually, meron pang second small plot twist. Chinek ko, bukas pa rin yung lawyer firm na yon. Marami pa rin daw silang tinutulungan na immigrants. Sabi ko, talaga? Kasi parang di yung ginawa mo sa akin, eh.
No, but
Anyways,
sorry, you might want to share. Saan mo nakuha yung lawyer na yun?
that lawyer came from my own employer. So, yun din naman kasi, medyo aanga ka pa noon, 21, 22. I should have gotten my own lawyer. Kasi
But
my
you were
own
paying
lawyer,
for that lawyer on top
Right.
of, right? Yeah.
ano po?
You were paying for that
I was
lawyer.
paying that lawyer on top of ano binabayad. Hindi binabayad, ako nagbabayad noon. So, dobleng hut-hut. Tapos,
Mhm.
dahil siguro takot yung lawyer na magalit yung employer. Kasi employer, meron palaging darating na bagong biktima. I mean, may bagong palaging re-recruit yun, eh. Right? So, the moral of the story is, it's always in your best interest na magkaroon ng sariling lawyer to look over the employment process to make sure na hindi mangyari sa inyo yung nangyari sa akin.
Mhm. And syempre, that lawyer that came from that employer would take care of the employer, not really you.
Yep.
Oo.
Yep.
Tama.
That was my horror story.
I think with kababayan na nakaka-experience na ganyan, natatakot kasi sila una magtanong kung mali ba yung nangyayari sa kanila at natatakot silang kalabanan yung employer nila kasi baka mapaalis sila or something, baka magkaroon sila ng repercussions. Sige, ayaw mo na, umuwi ka na lang sa Pilipinas.
Mhm.
Parang ganun. So
But-
it's, yeah.
But that's the thing, Johan, is that to our, fellow kababayans who might be in a bind, ang dami-daming employers, especially if you're already here. a lot of times from our experience, from a lot of people who were asking us, we sometimes we bring that, that barangay mentality here, and we also just tend to ask kung sino yung mga kilala natin who, in a lot of times, are in a similar situation. So
Right.
when we compare our stories, it's normally the horror stories, alam mo yun, and a lot of speculations.
Mhm.
So I would like to say that a lot of our, fellow PT siguro, right? I would say, or fellow Filipinos are well-meaning. But the
Mhm.
thing is, each of our story is a story on its own. Kung
Mhm.
ano yung nangyari sa kanila, it may be something that may be similar to you or not. So
Right.
you really have to go out of, out of that, um, yung bang barangay, and really ask and really look actually and see for yourself ano ba yung nasa what is written in the law. You also have to remember this is also cultural kasi sa
Mhm.
Pilipinas we go by word of mouth, right?
Mhm.
A lot of information goes by sabi kasi ni ganto, sabi ni ganyan. That's why when we ask, we go more of uh, expert opinion, right?
Mhm.
Expert opinion palagi, right? But here in the States, you always have to look at the primary source. Anong nakalagay sa official website? Anong
Mhm.
nakalagay sa what is officially written? Diba?
Mhm.
And who are the true experts? The true experts are not our friends and family members. The true experts are really those who we pay to do their job.
Mhm.
Okay? So always think, tingin nyo kung malaki yung ibabayad nyo sa lawyer, always think, what are you risking in turn by not having legal counsel,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So we're not used to paying for services. That's the thing. I think we're only very used to paying for goods in the Philippines. So mahirap sa atin to shell out money for services. Okay?
Mhm.
Kasi pwede ka naman magtanong. But
Ah.
that's the risk, right, that we're taking. Is it the right advice? And
Ah.
ultimately, what can that person do for us?
So I have a question kasi yung pagpunta ko dito, it's not employment based. So, when your status here is employment based, I've heard people na natatakot silang to go against their employer because if they lose their job, then they're going to be deported. How true is that? Like can you find a different employer and can they petition you? So because I never went through that. So
Mhm.
I'm just curious if you
What do you
guys
mean
can
employment
answer
based?
that.
Like
H1B
working
visa?
visa? H1B,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Kasi mayroong employment based immigrant, EB too.
Oh, okay.
So, so
H1B or yeah.
working
So
visa.
how does
Okay.
that work? Because
Mhm.
that, yeah, yung natatakot ka na, oh. And then, I have to say again, especially if people that yung utang na loob, you were so big at like being loyal and utang na loob, tapos your gratitude. So even though na hindi na fair, and of
Mhm.
course, like, I don't know about you guys, pero yung I was raised na, like, you suck it up kasi ganito, ganyan, you just work hard. But then after being here for so many years, you get to a point like, no, this is not right. You're actually perpetuating or you're enabling
Mhm.
people to mistreat, other people. But anyway, I just have questions about the work visa or the H1B or the immigrant based, employment based visa. How does that work? So you can say experience, of course.
Mhm.
Ben, you wanna answer or
Off. None of us here have a lawyer's
Yeah.
license. None
Yeah.
of us
Mhm.
here have a
True.
JD. So let's just be
Yeah.
very clear. This is not legal advice. The first legal advice we give you is get good
Yeah,
legal
and
advice
good advice.
Good legal.
from the immigration
The
lawyer.
lawyer.
But
Mhm.
this is how I understand it. Ang H1B ay pwedeng i-transfer. You have a certain amount of time. That's possible, right? So far, may shortage ang physical therapy market. That's also, I think, undeniable at this point. Pero syempre, kung ikaw yung may power, kung meron kang information asymmetry, hindi mo sasabihin yon. That's not gonna be what you're gonna say, Fresh. So, if you take somebody, remember na bagong dating, na kinakabahan pa,
Mhm.
na, pardon my language, sinanla yung lupa
Yeah.
at binenta yung baka para lang makarating. The
Mhm.
possibility, even the remote possibility na pauwiin ka, that's very, 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 very terrifying. So sometimes dun ka napapaluwara. And then like Consie was referring earlier, minsan, may nag-a-advise sa'yo, pero yung mismo nag-a-advise sa'yo rin naman, hindi rin naman din experts in the law or alam kung paano to fight for your rights. And doon tayo minsan nagkakaanuhan eh. So, tarang importante talaga na meron ka talagang magre-represent sa'yo. Pero the quick answer to your question is, pwede. Merong ways na
Mhm.
i-transfer kahit na let go ka. And you have, hindi unlimited. Ano yung time frame ko? 30
Well,
days, 60
yeah,
days?
yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
there is a time frame, and don't ever forget, that it is possible. It's not like pauuwiin ka na bukas. And
Yeah.
remember, this is the land of the free. Kumbaga, and everything is free, but you know what I mean? There is always a legal process.
Mhm.
And the thing is, when you let fear, right, take over, magpapanik ka eh. You will never get out of that. If you will always, and people will always use fear, especially if they want to take advantage. So yung mga pauuwiin na kita bukas, pauuwiin ka and ganyan. Well, don't be too quick to believe in that, because there are other options. What I want to warn people though is that there are a lot of employers, but you only have one license. So ultimately, we PTs, okay, are responsible for a lot of the things that happens in clinical practices, meaning do not let your employers, okay, like pressure you into doing something that will not go right by our practice, because once your licensure gets taken away from you, that's the end. That doon ka umuwi. Doon ka
Mhm.
uuwi. Because unless you already have your green card, of course, then not anymore. But
Mhm.
if not, if your employment is no, if your status is based on your employment, then if you don't have means, right, of being gainfully employed through your licensure, then that doon ka uuwi.
Yeah,
But other than that, yeah, there's always means.
right. In the last episode ng live ko, I talked to an immigration lawyer, and sinabi niya like with the yung H1B is tied to your employer. So kung
Mhm.
sino lang yung employer mong nag-apply ng H1B, sa kanya ka lang pwede magtrabaho.
Yes.
The problem, well, if that's the agency, the agency is your employer. So kung nag-work ka sa isang company pero ayaw mo dun sa company na yun, ang employer mo pa rin naman ay yung agency mo. So you can work that out kasi you still have rights. Okay, so immigrant visa ka, which is the EB1, EB2 or H1B. So you're still protected. So dapat yung I mean, wag tayo matakot na pauwiin agad. There's legal remedy for that, which you look for the right counsel na hindi bias sa employer mo
Yes.
or the
So,
agency.
basically, to summarize, diba? Lack of
Oo.
awareness,
Mhm.
get good data, fear. Either galing sa sarili mo o ginagawa sa ng employer or ng mga tao sa paligid mo, right?
Ah,
Lack of data, fear, utang na loob, na cultural trait ng mga Filipino. Those three make a very potent and profitable combination. Walang manloloko kung hindi ka kikita, right? There was a study by Pittman that said, on average, an immigrant nurse, so ergo PT, is $50,000 before the contract is over. That is the legal way pa lang ha. So paano kung hindi ka pa nagbabayad ng tamang wage? Paano kung dinedelay mo yung bayad? Actually, Johan, meron akong tatlong horror stories na nakahanda if we get around to it. Pero yung isa doon, um, $3 million yung pinababayad ng back wages. $3 million for only 52 or 156 workers. Imagine mo yun? Kinayaman. So, yeah, watch out. The best advocate for you is you and a lawyer who works for you.
oo. Hindi yung iba yung inaatupag na
Yep.
boss niya.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Um, what were the stories that you were trying to yung baon? Kasi
Meron ako
maraming nga
you
tayo,
want to
di
go
ba?
around the horn first?
Ano yan?
You
Sige,
want to
sige.
maybe do Consie first?
Okay. Sige, Consi, what was your
You,
ano experience?
um, I guess I don't know if we're gonna go back to. So I actually have two that Ben actually was telling me earlier. So one is there was so I didn't go here through employment either. Okay, so I didn't have to worry about I didn't have to worry about, being kicked out of work and not having my status. Iba yung iba yung that was not my I guess my case, diba? But when I was already working here in New Jersey, what happened was I had an employer who owns an outpatient ortho, right? And unfortunately, they were not billing correctly. They were not even documenting correctly, at least by Medicare standards. Okay. And so when I saw that, I told the owner, look, like we have to comply. And there were a lot of things that they were not doing. And the other thing is that a lot of their Medicare patients were already there for like 3 years, never discharged. So at this time, wala pang cap at that time. This was like in the early 2000s, there was no cap. But my point is, even if there was no cap at that time, it's no longer skilled care, number one, right? And to me, nothing is free. All of us pays into that insurance system, whether it's private or public. I think we all have that responsibility of making sure that we're good stewards, right? So when I started working for their company, what I started doing was actually going through the patients that were decked to me and realized that for a lot of these patients, they were just going there wala lang, out of habit. So I started assessing and then discharging some of the patients. So he got very upset and told me that, you have no idea how much I spent to keep these patients. Why are you discharging them? So I was like, well, because there was really no good reason to keep them in physical therapy. A lot of these patients have been here for years and years. Their programs don't even change. We have no goals to speak of. So that was what nagalit siya, of course, because I should not be discharging patients. But I'm like, but I have my own license, right? You own the business, but I am the one going to see these patients. And you can already tell, wala naman, diba? I no longer have to see them. And then the other thing is that he kept telling me that, because I kept telling them, if you're not going to change the way you document, right, I can't stay here either, because um, unless you want me to change the whole thing, meaning to actually help you. That was our thing, is that I can help you change our system such that we can teach our staff, because he already had like 9 clinics at that time, and none of those clinics were doing the documentation correctly. So anyway, at first he was like, yes, 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 yes. After a few months of just saying yes, I finally said, you know what? I don't think you're ever going to do it. So I handed my resignation. So when I handed my resignation, he talked to me. And at that time, I wasn't actually even sure. I mean, I guess I was the one who was afraid of the sun. Pero I remember 12 noon. It was so hot. We were at the back of the office talking in the heat, and at the same time, I don't know if it was the heat or it was his threatening me, that it felt so hot, because he was telling me, if you leave my company, you can no longer practice anywhere in the state of New Jersey. So I was
Nako.
like, I was like, why is that? Why is that? And he said, well, because um, basically he said he knows everyone in New Jersey, and he can either open or close the door on me. So I might as well just think over, my decision. So I said, well, more so at this point, I think that's a threat. So I'm never gonna change my mind. I don't think so. So that was my one horse. That was my first horror story.
Mhm.
And my second horror story is I was with this startup company. Helped grew the company from zero to we were moving to a bigger location. So after about 5 years, finally, I got, I was pregnant and just had our firstborn child. So I was about, I would say, 3 weeks into my maternity leave. So I was on leave, and my boss said, "Oh, I'm gonna go visit you." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's sweet. We're gonna talk." So we talked, and I thought it was just a casual "How are you?" visit, and so we were talking in the car, right? And then he started crying, and I was like, "What's happening? Is anybody sick? What happened?" So that's when he said, "I have to let you go, and I'm so sorry. This is so painful." Well, because it's like it's like breaking up with your girlfriend and everything. That's what he said, and I was like, "What?" you know, and yeah, and so I had to ask, right? Like, why are you letting me go? I mean, if I may. And he said, "Well, that's because you now have a baby and your priorities are going to change."
Oh my God.
Oh.
That's what?
So I was like, "Oh, okay." So I told him, "Okay, this a hypothetical situation, right?
Uh,
Hypothetical. What if I tell you I'm always going to be in the office, like say 3 times a week? Let's make it a regular schedule because I feel like there's something else. And so I said, "What if we do that?" He said, "Well, I also don't think that we want to bring the company to the same direction. And that was because at that time, I was seeing like 5 patients an hour, and truthfully, I was no longer proud of that place that I started because we're growing. But my point is, it's not the physical space that we need to grow, it's the manpower, right? I can't see 5 patients an hour. I'm not afraid of the work, but I just don't think that it's right by the patients to see 5 hours, five five per hour,
mhm.
5 people. And when I couldn't change that, I couldn't change the schedule because he couldn't get, like, he would not. It's not that he couldn't. He would not get other PTs on top. I was like, okay, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm still in charge of my billing, right? So I started billing 1 unit, 2 units, because I feel like I can only see them no, this time. So
Mhm.
of course, I guess reimbursement also went down.
Mhm.
So yeah, nasa na yung sound mo.
I know. The sound effects. Oh my God. That's horrible. Did you report it? That's like what is that? Like equal employment
Yeah,
Mhm.
opportunity.
violation.
Uh,
That's just
equal
discrimination.
uh
Equal.
Yeah.
That's
EEO
horrible.
something, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're a protected population.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, you can't just say because you're no, that's just so wrong. But we did. I don't know about you, but like the longer you live here, you
The
realize
more
how
you learn.
many more rights you have. And I'm like, wow, how did they get away with it? And how? Well, I didn't know. I let
Mhm.
them get away with it because I didn't know. So,
Well, his brother was a lawyer, and he even told me right to my face that I know you can sue me for this because my brother said so. Of course, I know I could,
True.
right? But he appealed to. But I also know that knowing who you are, you're not. And honestly, more than anything, I did not have the energy. I had a newborn.
Mhm.
I had to. It was a choice that I made not to pursue that because you know
Mhm.
what? At the end of the day, too, I believe that someone is watching over what's happening.
Mhm.
What did they say? Right? The arc of justice. You know, it. What is that?
Moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice.
There you go.
Mhm.
Right? It's gonna take a long time, maybe, or it may not, right? But it's always gonna bend towards justice. So I'm like, I know my rights, but I'm also forgoing of that right now because I could not possibly take care and have that baggage along
Mhm.
with.
yeah.
Or
So
roughly translated, bilog ang mundo.
yeah,
Isn't it like weather lang yan or
Weather lang yan.
nasa yung sa gulong na nasa taas ka tapos sa I don't know.
Gulong ng palad, I believe. That's right.
That's true.
Minsan nasa taas, minsan nasa baba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We
Oh, but
actually heard stories about that place, and it's financially successful. Ang laki ng mga signboard sa highway, right?
Talaga.
Oh, pero
Oh, PT meal talaga siya. As in, like, ito yung
yeah,
mga
oo,
tipong
oo.
tama, 6 patients, 5 patients an hour.
Pero lahat kasi may kapalit, Johan eh. Alam
Mhm.
namin yung quality ng life kapag when you're doing something not great sa clinic or sa office, kumakalat yan sa lahat ng aspect ng buhay eh. You know?
True.
So like ngayon, nagkakaroon ngayon, I think, ng parang financial issues.
Mhm.
Kasi pag madaling, ayun, pag easy come, easy go yung pera, pag madaling pumasok, madali rin
Mhm.
lumabas. So,
Yeah.
ikot yan. Ikot yan. Yeah.
Mhm. Dito naman sa US, 'di ba, employment is usually at will. Tama ba yung
Well,
term? Yeah, the company can terminate you anytime without saying any reason. Pero yung sa case ni Consie, sinabi sa kanya yung reason na hindi talaga siya lawful reason. Kung napaka-honest nung ano nung nag-fire sa'yo na, oh, we're gonna fire you because you're pregnant. You're gonna have a
You
I
just
don't
had
know.
and
no,
your
di ba?
had a baby and your priorities are now going to change.
That's no.
Because
No.
I was there for 5 years, and within that 5 years, I only took one leave of absence.
I know.
That was literally because I was so sick I couldn't even get out of bed for
Mhm.
5 years.
Mhm.
All the other, yeah, in between when we would go on vacation, it was always planned because I was always thinking I don't want to interrupt the clinic.
Mhm.
But it is what it is. I think that the moral of the story as well is that you can always change a bad, diba, a bad what do you call this experience into a good one, because
Yeah.
that was also kind of like what I guess prematurely I feel like forced us to start life in motion
Mhm.
uh, with the thinking of like I don't want to do the same things and I
Mhm.
want to prevent the same things that we have actually seen so far. So
Mhm. Right. And I think another moral din sa ano, sometimes your loyalty to the company is not rewarded. Na you can easily be chuki na.
I, my first lesson on no one is indispensable.
Mhm.
Yep, I was gonna say that.
Mhm. Ay, maraming ganun, especially this ano pandemic, 'di ba? Na basta na lang na downsize or tanggal ka na even if you're the longest, physical therapist staying there, hindi talaga eh. Eh, so, yeah, sad. Para tayo nasa ano, Are You Afraid of the Dark? We're in a circle ng campfires. We're telling horror stories. The tale of. Ikaw, Fretchie, what's your
I don't know if
spooky,
I have like
scary?
horrifying, unjust. I don't have that kind of experience. And so I'm like,
Mm.
I'll just show up and listen to you guys.
Uh-huh.
I have struggles. It wasn't
Uh-huh.
always easy to,
Mhm.
like where I am right now. But,
Mhm.
I don't have like, I have like patients, dying later, that kind of thing, but not my fault. It was
well, as
scary.
long as they
And
didn't say hi again afterwards, then that's a little scary.
well, like had a massive stroke after
That's still
a
scary.
surgery. I know it is, but I don't know if it's appropriate for
Yeah,
this
yeah.
podcast.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, but no, I have like I guess I could share my struggle because it's
Mm.
not always easy. Like I came here, because for love basically. So I didn't have that threat that if I lose my job or like, oh, I have to find a job because I have to pay rent. I never had that, but it was more like I came here and the process of getting credential, it's time consuming. I don't know, how you guys did it, but for me, like, I had to, the back and forth is not, tapos yung, nothing against sa home country natin. Because I love the Philippines. I'm always going to be Filipino, but, pero yung communication na, oh, I need my transcript of records. It takes so
So long.
weeks or even months. So yeah, so I came here, wala, hindi ko na prepare yung mga credentials ko. So I was already, I was already a graduate from the Philippines. So gusto, atat talaga na gusto magtrabaho, but I can't do anything about it. And dito sa Colorado, at first, I didn't know. So I was looking for, PT related jobs. I was like, oh, I want to, even like an aide. I was willing, but I couldn't find a job closer to home because they said, oh, you're overqualified or you're underqualified. So it was so confusing that, like my very first job was actually taking a phone call, like apartment. It was ridiculous. And I was so new here. So, but that was the thing. And then I got a rehab aid position, but I have to commute for five hours. But I
Mhm.
was really like, I really wanted my because while I was preparing, getting my credentials and reviewing for the board exam, and it wasn't easy too reviewing for the board exam because you have to remember I graduated 1999 and I came here 2001. So basically, I was 2 years out of school, out of classroom. So and then the PT here is like like I didn't know about pelvic health, and it was part of the. So just the review was that was hard too for me. So it wasn't easy. So while I was waiting for that, my credentials and reviewing for the board, trying to find a job that's PT related was just hard. But then this is the part where you really need to research and be your own advocate, because later on I realized na as long as you're eligible to become a PT dito sa Colorado years ago, you can work as a PT assistant. And that was great in a way na I had more opportunities to work as a PT assistant. Tapos hindi lang ako yung aide na, like doing like insurance work, because I really wanted to become a PT, like
Mhm.
that's why I'm here. So yeah, so like yeah, the right information. Tapos yung mentorship too, it's really, I wish na most people or most PTs will take on someone and mentor them, because it's really, really important. I think I shared with you guys na, if you work with people that are condescending, it can really shake your confidence. I had a supervisor, oh my God, a
Ayan, horror story.
supervisor. Yeah, it was a horror story because like I got called in, and I think I'm a hard worker. So that was scary for me because that was the first time that I got called in the big boss office. And I was like, well, what's going on? And it's like, but this supervisor accused me of something that was, and it was so it was horrible. Like that was the first time that I cried in the office because I was like, what? And anyway, I'm like, it just accusing me. And I'm like, I don't know what made her do that, but that was horrible because she was accusing me of mistreating a patient, and I had a very good relationship with this patient. So anyway, but that supervisor ended up going to a psych unit. So that kind of tells you why that happened.
Well, the
But
supervisor was admitted to the psych unit.
yeah,
Oh, oh,
so
okay.
that's like I know it wasn't me.
Plot twist.
The
Akala
twist,
ko
the
nasa
twist
nasa
was
sa
like,
ano.
yeah, I know. It's just like
Mm.
it was yeah, it was horrible. And then the other thing too is like, people like, okay, we have a job, but then sometimes we don't always have the luxury of working close to home. So I didn't learn how to drive until I came here. So just imagine driving in the middle of winter in Colorado. Um, and that's scary. I think that's scary. That's
Yeah.
well, now I know that, or I learned how to drive and the
Mhm.
technique. But it's not, again, it's not always easy living here and working because you don't always have the luxury of having a job close to your house. You might be able to find a job close to your house, but it could be a nightmare too because you could have bad supervisors or just very bad employers, or like
Always have
they don't have
luxury of
integrity.
having a job.
So that's the other thing too. As far as like the actual employment, like workings, horror stories about a patient dying, that kind of thing. Again, it's like it's not unicorns and rainbows. Like, yeah, we're PT, we're movement experts. There are, I work in a hospital, so I have my share of scary, like a patient that had a stroke while I was working with this patient. So that kind of thing. And later on, had a massive, well, it was a massive stroke. And later on, they couldn't, but that wasn't my fault. I didn't cause the stroke, that kind of thing. Or
Wasn't
someone,
me.
yeah, it wasn't me, but someone that's like, a hip, total hip, but a heavier person. She shouldn't have that hip replaced in the first place, but of course, had the perioperative fracture while I was
Yeah.
doing stairs. Stairs. Ah, but yeah, those kind of horror stories. But you do your chart review, and as long as you're following doctor's order, and your restrictions and precautions, that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
other than that, like I've been fortunate that as far as like immigration, other than going to the immigration office for 5 hours and taking a day off, I didn't have like I was scared that I'm gonna get deported and nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, those some of our kababayans are like that as well. Na they came over here, uh, travel agency or their employer, good transition. Tapos, ang mga scary stories nila would be like same as yours, like driving. They're not used to driving in the Philippines. They drive the first time here, or like for me, I same din ako sa ganyan na maganda yung transition ko eh. Pero ang akin would be the culture shock na though marami kaming physical therapist na Pinoy doon, I mean, interacting with the kano, siguro bias ko na yung mahihain kasi ko, like introvert person like me. Sobrang parang you have to be around everyone, you have to talk to everyone about your patients. Sabi ko, ano yung mga ginagawa sa Pilipinas to? I don't know
oh,
what
yung
to do.
rounds, rounds or
Ayun, when you talk about yung cases about the nurse, you and
yeah.
the I know, kasi I was in home health, so we have our own set of patients that we would group into our areas. Pag-usapan namin yun. Tapos, sasabihin ko lang, my patient's okay. Tapos, okay. Tapos, di ko na. I have no problem. Kasi mahihain. So, yun yung mga ganun, for an introvert person, parang yun yung dinedread ko, yung mga meetings sa ganyan.
That's scary. No,
Uh,
that is scary. That is.
Tapos yung pag-visit sa mga bahay,
Oh my
tapos you
God.
would be in the outskirt of somewhere na walang signal, and that is the only house there na parang may tao ba nakatira dito? Parang gano'n. So yun, tapos tipong winter na yon, tapos 5 o'clock na, madilim na, tapos last patient mo siya. Sabi mo parang, pupunta ako pa ba? So yun yung mga, sa akin, ganun lang yung mga scary stories ko. And I heard other people in home health as well na yung pagpupunta ka sa bahay, diba, yeah, na normal na sometimes patients would let you in na naka-unlock na. So pagpasok niya gano'n, hindi sumasagot yung patient. Pag kaya na lang na doon, nakahandusay nang nakaganon, deads na daw. So parang
Ah,
ako, ano gagawin ko
that's
pag gano'n ang
scary.
nangyari sa patient ko? So
That
yeah, so
is.
tumawag siya ng 911 para lang to declare the patient dead. So
Wow.
so yeah, so yung I mean simple as that, it's still scary for some physical therapists moving here na hindi naman sanay or who doesn't experience that in the Philippines.
I
Uh,
think another I'm sorry,
sorry.
go back.
Yeah, I just Johan, meron ba tayong question lang sa chat
Yeah,
na
I'm
you
showing
should
it. Yeah.
ask?
So sabi ni Jefferson de Lima, is there any age limit for foreign trained PT to apply for H-1B visa and to work in the US? I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
No.
Jefferson, ang age limit in employment is, I think, only in the Philippines. It's one
Yeah.
of
True.
those pleasing personality.
18 to 35 years old, only
No.
Please.
Yeah. You can work
5
until you're
to
90 if you want.
5 to
Mm.
5
uh,
to.
Are you
Wala na
ready to
ako.
be a
with a valid visa and
do you
pleasing
have a pleasing personality?
age is
Well,
a status, right, Cons?
Yeah,
mhm.
there's no age limit. I think that's very much a Filipino culture. Ageism, which is why I always say, okay, especially for us, to me, especially for us healthcare workers, especially for our fellow PTs, uh, to check your age bias. Okay, you always have to check your age bias, especially when you're going to practice here, and even when you're back home. Okay, because we have all been shaped, if you grew up in the Philippines, to think that there's a lot of things that you can no longer do once you get to a certain age. And that is something that we always encounter. And what I've noticed from the patients that we have, and we have patients from all different sorts of culture, it's much, much stronger to hear it from Filipinos. Ay, matanda na kasi. Ay, ganito. Ay, hindi ko na yan kailangan. Okay? And the thing is, it's sad if you hear it from patients, but I think it's unfortunate if you hear it from PTs, because we are supposed to be the ones, right, to like enable people to go past those biases, and live life to the fullest. But if we ourselves have that bias, mas mahirap for us to be of service to others. So yeah, that's just another thing. The other thing that I should, Ben, go ahead.
I was gonna say, parang side horror story that I've heard about, somewhat related to age. This
Yeah.
is only second-hand information, ha? And take that as you will. Pero sabi sa akin nung tao, ang horror story niya, ini-sponsor siya ng Filipino recruiter. Right? Pagdating dito, hindi pa rin maayos yung bayad. Pero ang binabanta ng recruiter is kapag hindi ka sumunod, hindi mo madadala yung asawa at anak mo.
Madalas ganyan, tama.
Right? Ang tindi, men. So talagang minsan pala, kunwari, syempre, bagong graduate ka na Pinoy or, economic opportunity is very hard in the Philippines. Papayag ka na ikaw lang mag-isa, pero pwede pala kayong lahat. Pero kasi kung ako salbahin na employer, pwede mong gamitin na leverage yun eh.
Yeah.
Imagine mo yun? Pag hindi ka sumunod sa akin, hindi mo makikita yung anak mo lumalaki. So talagang mind-blowing yung mga naririnig ko. And really, and Johan will attest to this, maraming ganitong kwento. Pero you have to understand, going through the process, when I went through my process, it's legitimate trauma.
Yeah.
I think nagkaroon ako ng obesity, nagkaroon ako ng depression, nagkaroon ako ng deep-seated anger na for the longest time, Consie, hindi ko ma-place kung saan kasi dun sa ginawa sa akin ng employer ko. And when you feel that way, kapag may nangyari sa'yo, maraming kababayan, hindi na instinct ikwento. Kasi pag kinuwento mo yun, parang maakuin na parang ako, naloko ako, o naisahan ako, which is for the delight of the employers because that's more money. Kasi hindi mo nga yung mga warningan yung iba. So this is my invitation sa lahat ng mga parang baka naloko, and hopefully wala na sa inyo, pero just in case maloko kayo, ang pwede niyong gawin na walang pwede kayong parusahan, sabihin niyo yung informal networks niyo. And I told Johan this, and I'm going to tell you people, Google knows everything. Google knows everything. Lahat ng mga law dockets ng Amerika, mag-google nyo. So pag may nag-hire sa inyo, meron totoong pangalan yan, i-google nyo, Office of the Attorney General, Recruiter XY. Or Recruiter XY, Department of Labor Violation. Malalaman yun. So I'll segue yung aking kwento na, Johan, habang hindi na tayo. Noong early 2000s, no less than 2 or 3 of my friends was pinahirapan ng isang certain recruiter sa Northeast, right? Ngayon, para kasuhan ka ng government, hindi sila basta-basta gagalaw. Normally, mas malamang gagalaw sila pag sobrang baho na ng ginawa mo at sobrang dali mo i-prosecute. Does that make sense? Kasi syempre, hindi naman interesado ang Attorney General na matalo sila, right? They need like strong evidence. May isang company na nahuli na $3 million ng back wages was due to 156 workers. Doon pala, mag-google nila kung sino yun eh. Anyways, ang nangyari to, nahuli sila, nung sinundan ko yung court case docket, nag-settle. So by the letter of the law, wala nangyari, right? Kasi pa nag-settle, wala kang inamin, right? Pero ito yung magic. Ito yung plot twist. Nagsarado yung nakasuhan na company, nagbukas ulit, nag-advertise ngayon sa Filipino PT.
On a different name.
Under a different name.
Yeah.
Goodness. Ang galing.
Yeah.
Ang galing. So, talaga.
Well, because that's what I was saying is that the worst thing that can happen to employers, guys, okay, is that papasara sila, but they can always reopen another company.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sila yun.
Yeah, but tayo, once they take out our license, that's the end of it. We
That's
can,
true.
and especially while it is an advantage to us that we have compact laws, right, that allows us to be licensed in reciprocal states. the downside to it is ngayon, once you have a case in one state, there's a good chance all the other states that has reciprocity is also going to be a closed door for you.
Yeah. They
Okay.
also ask you if you have been convicted or you have been or your license have been suspended or revoked pag nag-a-apply ka ng license sa iba.
Yes, yes, diba? So that's the thing is that so before you even another I know a very common thing nowadays, which even our lawyer warned us about, is how right now there are PTs. There's a lot of PTs, DPTs in the Philippines, but they're being hired as PTAs. I mean, it's still a legal way to hire people, right?
Mhm.
But just because you don't know how, because sometimes, diba, we always think it's greener on the other side when you're not there yet.
Mhm.
Okay. So what I've noticed when the last time we went home is that people just kind of like want to leave,
Mhm.
so kahit ano pipirmahan nila just to
Yeah,
be
kasi
able to
madaling.
leave. Yeah, so right now there's a lot of like, okay, uh PT ka, you have a PT license in the United States, which means you also shelled out a lot of money to get that, but
Mhm.
you're going to be hired as a PT assistant. And my big question is that, why, right? But then the bigger threat there is that ayaw mo pa. Eto na yung interview mo, hindi ka pa,
Mhm.
right? So, ito namang pobreng, mga kapwa Pilipino, o nga naman sayang, 'di ba? Because right there and then that should already give you a warning
Mhm.
that kung ngayon pa lang ginagawa niyo na sa akin 'to, what else can you do when I'm on the other side? And
Mhm.
guys, you have to remember, once you sign a contract is binding. A contract is binding. Here in the United States, it's binding. And uh, doing it illegally either. Kasi yung iba sabihin, "Ay, hindi, di ba, pagdating na lang ito, magtatrabaho ako or something." Yeah, but that doesn't make it right. You doing wrong by that contract also doesn't make it right. So, it's just a warning. Just watch out,
Mhm.
because
One
honestly,
there's a part of that we forgot.
mhm,
Yung bait and switch. Meron kang matinong contract na unang binigay sa'yo,
yeah, that's
pero
what, yeah,
dumating na yung interview. Sorry, go ahead, Con. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, 'di ba? Yung pati na yung contract sa nung malapit na yung interview mo, biglang ay hindi ito.
Ito pala yung
Wow.
Mhm.
contract.
Ito pala yung
Ah,
contract, 'di
ah.
ba?
Or
So,
papapirmahin ka ng isang contract sa Philippines, pagdating mo dito sa
True,
Amerika,
true.
papapirmahin ka ulit. Sabihin, "Ay, hindi, we
Wow.
corrected it." Pero it shouldn't be that way.
no, it shouldn't be that way. It should be the same contract or better. Why not
Mhm.
better? But why does
Mhm.
it always have to be worse? Right?
Mhm.
And the thing is, hindi naman one-sided ang law. If that something happens, if that kind happens to you, you always have, I think that that's the thing too, is that you also have to be bold and courageous a lot of times,
Mhm.
diba? I always believe that whatever happens to us is what God allows. Unless you just take it and don't say anything, then okay, you suffer that. But at the same time, you also suffer the risk, right, of everything that's attached to that. So may pagdating naman dito, yung iba, you don't know all the expenses that's out here. Pagdating
Mhm.
nila dito, they didn't realize that it's kind of worse because, and then, the worst thing is, to me, is the horror. To me, this is the horror of living here, especially when you're alone, is that it's very sad, right? You're away from
Yeah.
your
Homesick.
family. Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, it's as if it's not even a choice to go back.
Mhm.
Bakit? A lot of hopes and dreams are pinned on you.
Yep.
I think more than that, nakakahiya. Yung pride ng pamilya mo.
Pride.
You know what I mean? So, and
Yeah.
you really, we have already, you especially have already invested. And the whole
Mhm.
family have invested. So before you take the plunge and go on the other side,
Mhm.
make sure that you are also bold enough, because you know what, if nasa Pilipinas pa lang, you can no longer advocate for yourself, mas madali kang lokohin dito.
Mhm.
That's all I can say.
Mhm. That's
That's
true.
true.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can like listen to other people's stories. Ay, before that pala, Jefferson, it's okay that you asked. Don't say sorry. Okay lang 'yun. It's still part of that discussion. So I appreciate you sending your question. So anyway, yun nga, with that, I mean, if that person, after all the research and you know asking people around, still took that bait, um, don't worry, because there's still a remedy to it. You've learned your lesson. That's okay. But the next steps that you're gonna take should be the right na. So you ask for legal advice. You try to protect yourself. That's always important. And syempre, you try to warn other people as well dun sa path na tinake mo. Yun naman yung natin, giving back portion na
Yes.
maiwasan natin yung iba na napagdaanan yung mga nightmares na pinagdaanan ng mga tao ahead of us. Some of us would have different, um, experiences from the same company or the same employer, so that's okay as well. So you take every story, you take every experiences, and just you know uh, let it simmer. Kung
Mm-mm.
baga, and take it as like, is it something that I want to risk? Is it something that I really want to pursue? But the choice mo, then that's okay. You don't have to regret anything. Pero pag nagkamali ka nga, then there are other remedies. You don't have to worry about that. Like if, for example, your licenses are suspended. If you can, that's still suspended. Pero, you can still appeal, or you can, may iba pang mga options. It's not the end of the world, kumbaga. Ayun.
I'm gonna piggyback off that, Johan, no?
Mhm.
Yung may kasabihan, kapag yung binuksan mo yung cabinet, inilawan mo,
Mhm.
naglalayasan yung mga ipis,
Mhm.
right? Bad things scurry away from the light. I'm hoping yung ganitong conversations, we're shining a light sa mga ginagawang bad na diskarte.
Mhm.
Kasi kahit anong mangyari, mga PTRP nas Pilipinas, kayo ay isang magandang resource para sa kanila. Kailangan nila kayo eh.
Mhm.
If there's just enough na tao dito nagsasabi ng nangyayari sa kanila, right? Or the people who do really well with certain companies give actually good recommendations na hindi dahil sa finder's fee ha,
Mhm.
mahihirapan sila, malalaman sila ng resource eh. Ang isang discarding na-figure out ko na ginagawa para sa Pilipinas ngayon is kahit na wala silang ability i-deploy kayo, pinapasign na pala kayo ng kontrata kagad
Ah,
para na monopolize mo na yung pipeline.
tali ka na sa kanila.
Hali ka na sa kanila, yung pala yun. Pero kasi nga, ang taas ng supply natin ng PT, ginagamit yung economic tsaka job situation natin, parang, taranta kayo lahat ngayon,
Mhm.
ginagawa sa atin ngayon yan. So now I have to ask a bigger macro question. Right? Bakit dapat ang isang profession, binabantayan dapat yung supply and demand? Right? Dapat nagmamatch dapat yung output tsaka input. Kung hindi nangyayari yon, and I'm gonna say it out loud, right? Maybe physical therapy isn't as lucrative as it used to be. Is that just something na maybe might be the reason why we have so many people? Kasi if there's too many people competing for a few plum positions, yun ang opening ng mga bad faith actors eh.
Mhm.
Kasi kakapit sa patalim eh. Right? So that's my question to the greater physical therapy community in the Philippines. Sino yun? Academe, right? Profession, yung actual PTs, right? Kasi kayo nakakaalam kung kamusta yung job situation eh. So pag may dumating na bata, sinabi sa'yo, gusto ko maging PT. Sasabihin ba natin, it's a great opportunity na sigurado ka. Kasi
Mhm.
sa States, hindi namin masabi na yun because of the student debt situation,
Mhm.
right? So maybe that's something also that the Filipino PTs who are in the Philippines might want to step up and think about, maybe that's within your power to address.
Mhm. Siguro
But
sagot niyan yung
yeah, I mean, just very quickly, I just think that there's still a lot of room for growth for physical therapy in the Philippines. We are not yet. We are still very much in the, I feel like in the infancy stage. But
Mhm.
that's the thing is that I guess this is also a challenge. Is that how bad do we want physical therapy to be really improved locally?
Mhm.
To really improve locally and not just for like a way. And I'm saying this, with also a little bit of, like a bait, like, to myself na, like, because I'm here, diba? But how much do we want it to improve locally? That way, maybe we don't need to go outside of the country.
Right.
Maybe not all of us have to, because it's also impossible that all the graduates, even though it's our dream, it's also impossible that all of the graduates are going to go out. That's just a reality, right? But the reality as well is that a lot of our fellow Filipinos will need physical therapy in their lifetime.
Mhm.
And there is a big opportunity for that. Nagtataka lang ako, bakit hindi pa natin nakakapitalize hanggang ngayon? What's missing? So, yun lang.
I think the biggest horror stories sa Philippines is the salary of physical
That's right.
therapists.
That's right.
Yun yung nagpapatakot sa mga tao, I mean, to stay there.
Yeah.
And the political situation na rin siguro. But the biggest thing I think is the salary. If the salary goes up, no, and more appreciation for physical therapy, I don't think there would be that strong of a reason of leaving unless you really want to work abroad and experience yung ibang bansa, yung mga ganon, yung mga ibang perks. Pero for most kasi, like, they would dream to go abroad kasi nga mababa yung sweldo or, more opportunities in the other countries. So, yun. I think if they can address that, mas bababa, I think, yung attrition ng PTs sa Philippines.
But I
Mm.
think I feel like the value of the sweldo is also attached to the value of what we provide to the patients. Just throwing it out there. Minsan kasi tayong mga Filipino PTs medyo, alam mo yun, medyo pagdating sa sweldo and opportunities, medyo maalaala mo kaya yung stories natin palagi. I just want to challenge us as well to really look into the mirror and ask ourselves what kind of services are we really providing? What kind of benefits are we really providing to the patients? Diba? I'm not saying that we shouldn't be using certain treatments or, that's outside of that.
Mm.
Uh, but are these really necessary?
Mm.
Diba? For the patients to really uh, not just appreciate, diba? But really get better, have healthier lives, not just being able to move and all that, but just have healthier lives overall with
Right.
what we are doing to them. Versus pagka kasi medyo micro yung problema natin at yun lang yung palagi yung focus natin, diba? Mahirap din kasi mag-grow. Kung ang palaging focus lang natin ano yung makukuha natin, mahirap din mag-grow. I think that's also why I think each of us also have to look at the condition of overall condition, diba? That way there's an opportunity for us to grow. Kasi yun yung nangyayari, diba? Kaya nagkakaroon ng mga one chain, sila lang yung popular and all that na nag-take advantage din. Um, I think we should really all look at how we are practicing as clinicians, maybe, and really take a look at it. Hindi lang tayo yung may takot dito. Sila din doon may takot. That I'm very sure of. Diba? Sila din doon may takot mawalan ng trabaho, matakot mawalan ng referral. But at the same time, hindi rin ba tayo natatakot na yung ginagawa natin paminsan hindi yun yung best. And somebody's gonna shoot me, by saying all this, but I'm just throwing it out there. Because sometimes when we tend to, when we're only protecting ourselves and not look out for the best interest of others, we're also shooting ourselves in the butt at the same time.
Mhm.
So,
I-
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the most of the new grads now na may kayang or may resource to open up their own practices, they're more aware of that and practicing more of the EBPs and doing their own thing and not going with what has been historically been done. So I think may ano tayo doon, may konting hope tayo doon for the future generation. Kasi nakikita ko yung ibang mga facilities na addressing this and this, so may pelvic health na sila doon and doing this. Wow, wow. At least hindi sila sumusunod dun sa basic hot box stents, ultrasound, and Terra X and whatever.
Well, mas
So
meron fancy kasi Johan eh. Meron pang mga kung ano-ano. Even the modalities has gotten fancier.
I actually, oo. Yung iba din meron. Pero
I wanna I wanna add something. Like I think that where you're coming from, Consie, is really good. It's such a noble mission, I think. But me, like I know I've been here for over 20 years, but one of the driving forces or one of the reasons why I became a PT, because I wanted to be a teacher, a shout out to all the teachers. I wanted to be a teacher, but they told me, well, you got good grades. You either become a lawyer or an accountant, or that time back in 1995, that was the peak of PTs. Like you could come here in the US. So what drove me was the opportunity to come here in the US and to earn money for my family. So it's really hard because I think, galing sa Pilipinas, like for me, I come from, below middle class family. And it's always the drive of like, that's why, a lot of people or a lot of our PTRPs want to come here because of that. So mahirap. But sa akin, like I have another friend, we're hoping, we're at the point in our lives na, we're established here, we're not getting younger. And we always think of like, kasi, yung attachment namin sa Pilipinas, matatag pa rin. Like, we're thinking like, oh, maybe, I don't know, like me, I have kids here. I don't know where my kids, I'm going to retire where my kids are going to be. But part of us is like, do you want to retire there or maybe open like a school-based PT or an outpatient? So we are thinking about that because we still have connections and there's so, we know our, so many hardworking, people over there. So I'm hoping that it will come in fruition. I don't know, no promises, but that's one of our things that we want to do. Like not so much to give back, but it's more like we want to do something meaningful because like here there's so many resources here to address, the less privileged. But in the Philippines, I don't know, like matagal na kasi ako dito, so I don't really know what the reality as a practicing PT dun sa Pilipinas. I did practice for a little bit, but we were in a community-based. We got lucky. Our parish priest, of all people, opened up a clinic for us. We were 5 unemployed PTs. And we even like passed the board exam. And we didn't have a job. But this was back in 1999, 2000. We didn't have a job. So we were lucky. But yeah, we did the traditional heating pad, low back pain. But, we brought a lot of smile to of our residents in our community, even though it wasn't EBT. It really wasn't. But they felt better. But yeah, so I'm hoping. But yeah, it's really hard because like I don't know now. I'm just, talking about my experience when I started. Like, I want to come here because I want to earn money and I want to support my family. That was my driving force. So, but hopefully, again, one of our dreams, and I know it will happen if we just keep this, like this motivation up that we, just bringing, what we learn and our skills and not even necessarily for us to run that, but to train someone and bring and it's more fun in the Philippines, I have to say. So,
Johan, I think you have your happy ending here,
I
right? Scary movie's ending, and the happy ending is what I'm hearing is our younger PTs, PTRPs, they know better, right? And they're hearing the internet is the great equalizer. Like we have, like Sir Eman, he came before us. So remember what UP camp is what 60 years old, right? 60. So that means in generation nila basically came to America and sort of assimilated and integrated into American life. So they maybe not a ton of them came back yet. And the next generation not so much, but our generation, the mid 90s to late 90s, we are, still early enough in our careers to be more established. We are comfortable enough with social media and the internet so we can actually form these relationships. And everyone really has a role to play. Like, so Secret Consi and I advocate for higher learning in the Philippines at a lower rate. Fretch is already looking for how to start, right? Hindi pa siya nag-retire, nag-isip na siya. Johan continues to be an advocate by being a
Yeah.
source of information. Lahat pwedeng mag-ambag.
Mhm.
And just us knowing na hindi tayo nag-iisa, and I'm hoping there's going to be some USBA PTs who will hear this, who maybe will spur their imagination to think, ano kaya pwede ko yung bag? Tingin ko meron. Right? And our PTRPs in the Philippines, they'll know, okay, may nag-start na, pagdating ko doon, I need to earn the dollars, kailangan ko paaralin si Bunso, pero pagkatapos, baka pwede na mag-plant sa mind nila na, okay, when it's my turn, ako naman ang mag-give back. So I think that's a great ending to this horror movie.
And at the same time, for those who are planted, I guess, and are really designed to grow where they are. Sometimes your dream may right be where you are,
Right.
maybe not on the other side, and
Mhm.
until that happens, I think you should also grow the opportunities around you.
Mhm.
Parang live in the present, okay, like look forward to the future, but always try to make it better where you are at
Mhm.
present. Hindi lang, don't wait for the future to happen
Mhm.
because the future that's in your mind may not even happen.
Mhm.
So do your best wherever you are right now, kasi nothing is going to be lost, because that's always going to be your training ground for wherever you may be in the future.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, and this is from a middle age PT, uh, who's gone hopefully wiser through the years. So
Mhm.
yeah. So I think we're gonna end with that.
Yeah. So like, piggyback there, grow where you are, and also don't compare yourself with others. Like if they're doing their thing in another country, or they're doing their thing in another facility, or another company, you know, do your own thing there where you are, and don't compare yourself to others. Hindi naman tayo nag-compete. If you want to, grow, be better than your past self, and that's it. No. Yun. So, maganda nga yung natin, ng horror stories natin, and we're ending in a good light. So, hopefully, our discussion just piqued the interest of our audience and made them aware of the other side of migration. Diba? It's not always rainbows and butterflies. There's also those dangers lurking. We just need to be aware and know that there are people that can help, and there are legal remedies if you're in that bind and situation. Tama. And ano pa? May mga moral natin.
My white lady din kahit dito.
Ay, alam mo, hindi na dating, kasi well, side, side, sidewar, kasi sinabi mo yan. So, nung lumipat ako dito, syempre takot ako, tumira mag-isa, pero mag-isa ako sa isang apartment. Tapos, takot na takot ako, kasi wala akong gamit, kama lang meron ako, wala akong casual, bare apartment. So, sabi, takot nga ako. So, inisip ko, so, kung mumutuin ako dito, English? So, wala naman siguro dito. Wala naman siguro
That's
dito manananggal. Wala siguro pastor dito.
Hindi
Siguro
binigyan ng
mga,
busy manananggal, denied.
good
siguro
for
mga
you.
Ingleserong multo.
Nilipat naman
Mga
siya eh.
That's so
leprechaun. Yung mga
funny.
ganyan. Like, sige, iba siguro yung mga matan mo nanakot sa akin dito.
So funny.
Hinarang sa quarantine yung kapre. Wala daw.
Kasi may malapit kasi kung puno dun sa second floor kasi ko, may puno kasi doon. Sa bintana ako. Wala akong shade. Hindi pa ako
That's
nakakabili.
so
Sabi ko,
funny.
siguro wala naman tikbalang dito nakatira. Sa Pilipinas lang ang tikbalang.
That's funny.
So, yun, naalala ko lang. Walang white lady dito, pero may Ingleserong mga multo.
Actually, madaming white lady dito.
Totoo.
Sa mga daan, oo.
Very fair lady.
Saka mga deer. Iwasan niyo sa daan pag gabi na.
That's
Ayun.
funny.
Okay.
Alright. So everyone, thank you for watching this version of our Halloween edition of PT Meal Handaan. Hope you have learned something from our discussion, and wait for our next handaan, our next discussion, and listen to our past, conversation as well para may matutunan po kayo. All right. Good morning, everyone in the Philippines, and good night, everyone here in
Advance happy Halloween, everyone.
Advance Happy
Enjoy.
Halloween din. All right. Nasaan na ba yung outro?